At 7:30 on November 16th, I'll call to order the Brainerd City Council meeting, and we'll start with roll call.
Pritchett.
Here.
Bevins.
Here.
W. Erickson.
Here.
T. Erickson.
Here.
Lambert.
Here.
Stunek.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
And Badeau.
Here.
Hey, made it. All right. Brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. This agenda was written when we were going to meet in person. Since we are not meeting in person, I'm just going to skip the pledge and we'll move on to number 4, approval of agenda. Looking for a motion.
So, Mr. Chair,
Kelly?
Safety and Public Works has 2 additional agenda items. I don't know if that needs to go on the main agenda or not, but I'll mention them now. Item 4 is a COVID emergency snow plowing agreement with Anderson Brothers Construction. And item 4 is an MS4 stormwater permit update and additional cost.
That's a motion to approve with those 2 additions.
Lambert,
Yes,
second.
please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second
Lambert.
by Lambert. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Brings us to the next item, which is the consent calendar. Notice to public, all matters listed are considered routine by the council and will all be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call.
Lambert,
Move to adopt.
oops.
We have a motion from Lambert, second from Pritchett. Was that Pritchett? No.
Sure.
I will
We got a
second it.
Yeah, we got a second for Pritchett now. To approve the consent calendar, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. It brings us to item number 6, presentation. 6A is a presentation from the center giving us their annual presentation. I'll welcome, I see we had Dale Parks here, and we'll give the floor to Dale. Deanne Berry. Deanne, take the floor.
Thank you very much for the invite to do our annual presentation. A little bit different this year, but making it work. Wondering if you all received the information and if you have any questions.
This is Lambert. I received information. I do not have any questions.
I guess
I'm kind of lagging here. I didn't hear much of anything. Connie?
Mr. Chair, I would just like to say that the information that was provided by Ms. Berry was included in the council packet, and she was asking if there was any questions.
Okay, does anybody have any questions after having reviewed the material? Seeing no questions, is there anything else you'd like to present, Deanne or Dale? Do you have anything to say?
I guess I just want to reiterate what Deanne said in the letter that she and I sent, that we appreciate the support we've had from the city. And we also appreciate having a council member at our meetings. And I know that you guys will be changing potentially committees, but Kevin has been a real asset to our meetings. And if at all possible, of course, I think he want to also, but anyway, we appreciate him at our meetings. So again, it's been a win-win for us and for the city to get the information from the city perspective and then try to give our perspective at the same time.
Thank you, Dale. Kevin, you want to be back on that committee?
Absolutely.
All right.
Awesome.
Tell the next council president that. Any other questions or comments from council members? Or baby mayors? No? Seeing none, thanks for, thanks for showing up. Thanks for presenting us with that information, Deanne. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yep, have a good day. Item number 7, council committee reports. 7A, the Personnel and Finance Committee, Alderman Pritchett.
All right, thank you, President. We have 4 items coming out of committee. The first is the approval of bills. This will be put on the consent calendar, but there was a little bit of mix-up, so it wasn't on the consent calendar for this meeting. But from now on, it will be. All right. And the committee, the motion coming out of committee is to approve, and I so move.
And second.
We have a motion by Pritchett, a second by Tad Erickson to approve the bills. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. Alderman Pritchett.
Item number 2 is the 2020 audit letter. The motion coming out of committee is to approve the engagement letter as submitted and to authorize signatures of engagement letter and the HIPPA Business Associate Agreement, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Alderman Pritchett.
All right, just a little bit on this. We approved Clifton Allen Larson for the audit. The total was $4,500. There's an extra $2,000 on there because we spent over $100,000 of CARES Act money, and that needs to be tested also. The reason that, if you look at the bottom, that it's $42,500 is because the airport traditionally pays about $5,000, and so since it's an agreement to the letter, if there's any difference in what the airport pays, that'll still be covered. It won't have to come back to council.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Alderman Pritchett.
All right, thank you very much. Item 3 is authorization to sell the Chevy Impala. So in the motion coming out of committee is to authorize the sale of the retired community development vehicle utilizing Enterprise, and it's the 2007 Impala, and the last 4 digits of the VIN are 54512, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. Alderman Pritchett.
All right, item 4 is the deferment of assessments, and the motion coming out of committee is to approve the application for deferment of assessment payable in 2021 for applicants at PIDs 411-80619, 411-90660, and 411-80577, subject to further staff review, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Alderman Pritchett.
Okay, so these are basically deferments on new projects. So there are 3 new applications. Staff feels that they meet the requirements. They need some additional information from one of them, and the filing fees need to be paid. The reason that this is coming up before it's all done is this has to be finished by November 30th, and we're not meeting again until December.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. Alderman Pritchett.
End of report.
Thank you. That gets us to 7B, Safety and Public Works Committee. Alderman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have 5 agenda items tonight. Item number 1 is improvements 1321, 1909, 1916, 1920, and 1921, our Northeast Brainerd reconstruction projects. Final pay estimate The motion is to recommend approval of the attached pay estimate to Anderson Brothers Construction LLC in the final contract amount of $1,932,840.07, which is $508,196.20 on this estimate. And of course, it's already been approved by PNF, and I so move.
Erickson, second.
We have a motion by Bevins, second by Wayne Erickson. Any other discussion, Kelly?
None.
Other questions? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. Alderman Bevins.
Thank you. Item number 2 is improvement 17-06, 17-07. That's our 8th Street and 10th Avenue Northeast reconstruction project from 2019. The motion is to accept staff's recommendation, approve the attached final pay application to Anderson Brothers Construction of Brainerd in the total amount of $1,582,006, which is $46,547.08 for this estimate, and subject to approval of bills and payments, which has already been approved, and I so move.
Lambert, second.
A motion by Bevins, a second by Lambert. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. Alderman Bevins.
Thank you. Item number 3 is our proposal for professional services for the 2022 Highway 25 trail construction with SEH, and the motion is to accept staff's recommendation, authorizing staff to execute a contract between the City of Brainerd and SEH for the preliminary engineering, design, and construction of the Highway 25 trail from 5th Avenue Northeast to 28th Street for 2022 construction season in the total amount of $77,750 to be coordinated with MnDOT's bridge replacement and trail construction over the railroad tracks, and with the trail construction utilizing Minnesota DNR funds to Norwood Street, and I so move.
Erickson, second.
A motion by Bevins, a second by Erickson. Any discussion? I have one question. This is that project we've been talking about for quite a while now, isn't it?
Yes.
A year or two, yeah. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. Alderman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 4 is the motion is to accept staff's recommendation and enter into a COVID emergency service level agreement between the City of Brainerd and Anderson Brothers Construction for snow plowing for the 2020-2021 season with prices posted, and I so move.
Lambert, second.
A motion by Bevins, a second by Lambert. Any discussion? Question, Kelly, this contract goes into effect if our street crew is all out or majority out from COVID, Anderson Brothers will come in and help plow the streets.
Absolutely, that is correct. It mirrors the same contract that the county has signed for the exact same reasons.
Perfect, thank you. Any other discussion? Yeah, Paul?
Mr. President, if I may, the county also has offered services too if we get into a pinch and they're in good shape. So we do have a couple of options. I think this would kind of be a last resort if we call on mutual aid to come help us out and they don't have anyone to help, then this would be our last resort.
Perfect. It's good to have extra layers of protection in times like these. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. Alderman Bevins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our final item is the storm water pollution and prevention plan. The motion is to enter into an agreement with HR Green for $15,000 to begin the phase 1 self-audit portion of the plan as outlined in the letter from HR Green, and I so move.
Lambert second.
A motion by Bevins, a second by Lambert. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Kelly?
this is the starting or planning phase, just basically getting a jump on what we will see in its entirety at our next budget meeting, which is roughly $115,000 proposal, Paul?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
we're thinking it'll be for phase one, they outlined a $15,000 cost we want to get a jump on before the end of the year. And then phase two, they've indicated that it'll be once we know what phase one kind of holds and we have the self-audit done, we can identify areas where our MS4 and SWIP don't meet the new permit requirements, and the pricing would be based on what has to change. They've indicated that they've done this for other cities that have revamped their entire MS4 program, and that ran 80 to 90,000. However, I don't think it'll get to that far because I think our MS4 program is already pretty strong. So that'll be in the storm and sewer budget for 2021, what is considered phase two. But the phase one is what we're asking or requesting the council to move forward with.
Okay, so we're paying 15 right now, but we're expecting or with the understanding that it will be more down the road, but this is going to be paid for out of the stormwater enterprise funds, not levy dollars, right?
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Sternick.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Alderman Bevins.
End of report.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 8A, unfinished business, the final reading of proposed ordinance 1512 and ordinance amending section 600 of the Brainerd City Code pertaining to public health and garbage disposal. City Administrator Bergman recommends to dispense with the actual reading. Who's taking this, Paul?
Yes, I can, Mr. President. So we held the first reading a month ago of this ordinance. This was based upon a meeting we had, or a committee that we set up with the garbage haulers to review our sanitation ordinance. What came out of that committee are a few changes that you can see outlined in the ordinance revision. Some of the highlights are change from street or alley pickup to only alley pickup. And the reason for that is the garbage trucks really do belong in the alleys, and it was kind of agreed upon that, you know, some of these residences don't have access to an alley or don't have an alley at all. And so those would be areas where we would mutually agree that there would be street pickup. I have a little more on that, some comments we received from some citizens regarding that, but I'll go over the rest of the changes. There was a time frame for and that is no earlier than 6 p.m. the day before collection to the end of the day of collection is when your can be out per the new revisions on the ordinance. Basically, the ordinance says that the haulers and city will meet annually to discuss these changes or solid waste and recycling in the city in general. We would go on an informational campaign if this ordinance is adopted to help to educate residents on the importance of pulling refuse containers to not only help the look of our city, but also help with maintenance during the winter months and street sweeping. The ordinance only allows for 4 licensed haulers in Brainerd per year. The reasoning because of the proximity of the city to the landfill There is the worry that some haulers will use Brainerd as a location to more or less top off their truck on the way to the landfill. And of course, the 4 licenses that are offered would be offered to the 4 haulers from the year prior, which there are only 4 right now. If a hauler does not obtain their license, it would become available to the next eligible licensee. And then we had some just general wordsmithing of the document to make it more readable. We did receive a few questions or concerns about the ordinance revision related to the alley pickup and how it relates to the orientation of some homes. Although some homes may have alley access, their driveway or their garage is actually oriented to the street. And the concern being that the residents don't have a direct path to the alley to place their can out. And they feel it's an inconvenience to have to pull their can either around the, out onto the street and into the alley, or having to plow a path to the alley to place their can out. I guess staff would like some guidance on this. If we start exempting a bunch of properties from the alley pickup guideline when there's an alley available, I guess we feel the intent of the ordinance would be gone and the changes would be hard to enforce if we have a bunch of exemptions. But of course, we would take whatever the city council has and implement that to the best of our ability. So with that, we can open the public hearing, or if there's any questions of staff, you can certainly ask them now.
Thanks, Paul. If Jan has something.
Paul, this is Jan. Did you guys ever compile a list of what alleys are not going to be accessible at all by the haulers? I know there was some you guys were talking about.
We're still working on that, Jan. The haulers are supposed to provide that tool.
Okay.
They know their customer lists. I know like most of South Brainerd in the Graydon area is not going to have alleys available. There's some alleys that, some residences that have alleys, but a garbage truck can't travel down them because they're too narrow or there's other obstacles in the way. And so those, once we get those from the haulers, we would review those in detail and provide a concurrence or review it further with the hauler to see if there's some areas where we should make them pick up from the alley.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. I have a follow-up on that, Paul. Is there something we're putting into the ordinance that allows the city to make these exemptions for alleys that are not suitable?
It's a mutual agreement, Mr. President. So the hauler would provide the list, and if the city concurs with that, with their with the residents they're picking up from, if the city does not concur, we would go out, review it with the hauler in more detail and see what their concerns are. The biggest thing we want some council guidance on is that orientation question with houses not having a driveway or a garage access per se to the alley, rather it's oriented to the street and may cause undue hardship to a resident having to shovel an additional path out to the alley to get their garbage taken out.
Okay, Alderman Pritchett.
So I got 2 things, well, maybe 3. Do we have any idea how many residents would be affected by that? And would we be able to maybe set something like so many feet for that? And then my second question would be, I had one concern from a constituent who basically said he does a lot of traveling with his business, and a lot of times he's gone during the middle of the week. So he'd be setting out his garbage can earlier and leaving it later because is there any provision for that sort of a situation?
Paul?
Yes, if I may, Mr. President, there isn't any provision about that. It would generally be up to the property owner to organize having their neighbor or someone pull their garbage in and out. I think there were some comments related to that at the first meeting when this was proposed, how some people may just have a neighbor come and pull their can in and out if they need it. The first question Go. What was the first question, Dave? I apologize.
Do we have any idea how many residents would be affected by not having that alley access, that have the alleys but don't have the access? And would we be able to set like a limit on feet? You know, like just saying if it's so far, just kind of how we do with setbacks and other things like that in planning and zoning.
There's going to be a ton of them, if I may, Mr. President. Basically, every residence on a corner lot, there's that same situation where their garage, a majority of the time, I would say, is facing the street with the driveway access to the street and not to the alley. And so I'm a little bit torn. If we start making a bunch of exemptions, maybe we make an exemption for corner lots in general, but then the intent of the ordinance is a little bit grayed out, I would say, from that perspective. But
Okay, so here, but you have a thought?
Well, I'm just wondering if there's potential to maybe create an application for exemption. So if people are desiring it, maybe forcing them to come through and have it actually create an application for it as opposed to just blanket exemption.
I actually like that idea, Mr. President. That is a good idea.
I would be fine. Kelly, you have something?
Can I just hear that restated one more time?
But what was your idea?
I'm just thinking that perhaps creating an application process for it, as opposed to just having a blanket, say you're on a corner lot and you're just automatically exempt, maybe just having an application process and a set of rules within that.
So the citizens would apply to the street department or engineering department or somewhere, and we'd send a person out to review and see if they should be allowed to be exempt from following the rule. Dave, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that sounds like a fair approach to it.
And Paul, you think that could work, and that wouldn't, because if you say there's a ton of lots that have this problem, that could be a ton of lots that qualify for an exemption, correct?
Yeah, I would say, Mr. President, that might be the case, but I have a suspicion that there's not going to be a lot of people that, aren't going to be opposed to putting their garbage can out to the alley rather than, I had 2 or 3 comments about that article that was in the Dispatch about that same issue. I just don't know the volume that we're going to have. And if it does get to a point where it's just everyone's applying, if they're at a corner lot, then maybe we have to revisit it. But I think it's a good alternative than giving a blanket exemption. I think it's something like a streetlight request that we could either do administratively from a staff perspective, or bring them forward to the city council if you guys want to hear those. But
I'm only speaking for myself as a council member, but I do not want to be debating garbage can placement at individual lots at city council meetings. Jan, you have another thought?
Well, yes, I think we do have to have some caution here, because not only if we do have an exemption on some of that, not only are some of the people going to be picked up in the alley on that same block, they're going to be picked up in the street. And I thought that's one thing we were trying to avoid, is the traveling of our streets, because one person could say, I get an exemption, and then the neighbor is on the alley side. So I think we have to take that in consideration also.
Yeah, I think you're right. We don't, and Paul mentioned that we don't want too many people exempt, if any. But any other thoughts, Tad?
Yeah, so I like the idea of the application as well. The question I had is, do you want that application to go to Planning Commission for review, or is it a staff review? Just an honest question for maybe, I guess anybody.
My preference would be an administrative review for staff. I think our street crews are smart enough, our engineering department, whoever would take it, is smart enough to figure it out.
I agree.
Mr. President, if I may, maybe we can develop some criteria that the city council could act upon for that exemption, and then from there we could take it administratively.
Yeah, let's have council adopt a set of policies or guidelines that staff can then run with. I like that plan. Let's go forward. Does everybody like that idea? Or does
Yes.
anybody dislike that idea?
No.
Okay, and I'll say I'm a corner lot who is a street garbage person, and my hauler already moved my cans to the alley and it works out just fine. So I don't mind it at all. But with that, with no more questions of Paul, I guess I can open. Are there any more questions, or should we move forward with the public hearing? Okay, we'll open the public hearing at 8:01. And it doesn't appear, unless Teresa has anything to say, it doesn't appear any citizens are here for the public hearing. Any thoughts on garbage pickup, Teresa?
No, I'm good. I'm just listening.
Okay. So with that, I will close the public hearing at 8:01 and we'll move on to consider the testimony and alternatives. Paul, I suppose you had a couple comments. Did you want to read those in the public forum, the concerns you heard from citizens?
If I may,
The
Mr.
public hearing?
President, all of the concerns were related to that issue about the corner lot, and I think we've already discussed that in depth. So,
Okay, so you don't think it's necessary to read them during the official public hearing?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well then we'll move to the item C there and hold the final reading and dispense with the actual reading.
So moved.
Lambert, second.
Motion by Bevins, second by Lambert. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Now we're looking to adopt ordinance 1512.
So moved, Lambert.
Motion, was that Stunek?
Lambert.
Second, motion by Lambert.
Second by Bevins.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries, and we have now passed the 1,512th ordinance in the history of our city.
Wow.
We're not trying hard enough.
Only like 10 a year. 8B, unfinished business, order of agenda. Jennifer?
Yep, I can take this real quick, Mr. President. At the last meeting, the council amended the rules of procedure and decorum for the city council. The recommendation was to also amend this to apply to city boards and commissions. Attached in your packet is the red line version, adding this to boards and commissions where it's applicable. So the recommendation is to amend the rules of procedure and decorum for the city council meetings to apply to city boards and commissions. And Mr. President.
All right, so this is the document we amended last time and then discussed further amendments, and these are the amendments we discussed to finalize the document, at least for the time being. Looking for a motion to adopt the rules of decorum. Pritchett motion.
Second Bevins.
Second Bevins. Any discussion, Jan?
No, I meant to do a second, so now I'm fine.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
I'm sorry, Tad. Yes.
Stunek.
Oh,
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. 8C, committee recommendations. Mayor Bedeau has a couple of them.
And we'll just make this super quick, no funny business. I've got two recommendations for you both for the HRA board. The first of which is the resident appointment, which was done by the HRA board themselves. Janet Decker for the HRA board, and then also Michael Duval for the HRA board.
Move to approve. Pritchett.
Second, Erickson.
We have a motion by Pritchett, a second by Erickson to approve, and I'll just clarify the resident appointment is a HUD rule that any public housing agency needs to have one resident on their board of governors. So we, at the Brainerd HRA, we hold resident elections every so often to appoint somebody who lives in either public housing or housing choice voucher housing. And Janet Decker was elected by her peers, but still needs to be appointed by the mayor because that's how HRAs appoint you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Bevins,
Yes.
W. Erickson,
Yes.
T. Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes.
Stunek,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Now go to item D, call for applicants. Mayor Bedeau.
All right, it's the usual business for call for applicants. Those are, of course, available at the city's website, ci.brainerd.mn.us. We are looking for the following one term for the Cable TV Advisory Committee expiring 2021, 2 terms expiring 2022. The Charter Commission, we have 2 terms expiring 2020. A lot of hard work going on over at that group, so join in the fun. And then Brainerd Housing and Redevelopment Authority is the one I believe that we just did. So we're also looking for applicants for the Water Tower Committee and for the Parking Commission. The Water Tower Committee, it looks like a couple members are falling off, so it would be very pertinent if we all could search for people that are interested in helping that committee as well.
Mr. Chair,
Jan.
Mr. Mayor, how many people are still needed for the Parking Commission?
You should be able to get going on that, I believe. I think we had open spots, but I think we have a quorum, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
believe you have a quorum, but maybe 1 or 2 open spots. Let's get a number on that for the next agenda, Jennifer. See how many openings there are on the Parking Commission. And you don't have a max set number of people for the Water Tower Commission, do you?
I don't believe so, no. But we've got a couple members that are being less active, so there's interest in trying to get some more people involved.
Excellent. Let's go on to item 9, new business. 9A, City Hall Annex Heating Repairs. Jennifer, Paul, I don't know who's got this one.
Paul, you got it.
Yeah, I can take it, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So let me get to the agenda item here. We did a walkthrough with Crow Wing County maintenance staff of the annex building. That's not on our agreement with Crow Wing County. However, they've been providing some consultation services to us in regards to that building specifically. With the HVAC, just a little history on this. There's 4 furnaces that serve that building. 2 are for the at grade level, or basically where the driver's exam station is, and 2 are for the upper level. One of the at grade level furnaces was replaced a few years ago, and the other one it's still in serviceable condition. And so those 2 units are fine in staff's opinion. However, the 2 units that serve the upstairs are currently not working. There are also some venting issues with the existing basement furnaces that need to be addressed. And so what the county did for us is they walked through the building with an HVAC contractor, SCR Northern, to look and provide the city with a quote to at least get the heating systems up and running for the winter months. Another thing that staff asked is if there's an opportunity to install some Wi-Fi thermostats so that we can monitor the building remotely without there being a tenant in there, without having to go in there every day. Staff would like to be able to monitor the temperature in that building so we don't end up with a freezing situation where we ruin everything in that building. And so with this quote, it really addresses the heating system from a holistic standpoint. The contractor also looked into the cooling system, which is basically in need of complete replacement in the building. We feel like we can push that off until a future date. We don't know if the driver's license office is going to be back anytime soon. However, with our lease, if they do decide to come back, I feel like we need to have a operating HVAC system. So this may come up for 2021 to work on that cooling system and replace the condensing units and the existing wiring that is not in a condition that would be good for installing new condensing units. And so I guess what we're requesting is that the city council authorize staff to move forward with installing the 2 new furnaces for the upper level, along with repairing that venting on the grade level furnaces in that building, so that we can get through the winter months and not having to worry about that building, being able to monitor it remotely. So if there's any questions, I can answer them now.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
I've got a couple. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
What is it the most cost-effective way to heat that building? Is it running 4 furnaces?
The issue comes, Mr. Chair, is if we start changing the HVAC system in that building without taking a more holistic perspective like we did, you have to change ducting and everything around. So it probably is not, but it's probably the cheapest band-aid solution at this point, without actually redoing all the duct work in that building and going to a more centralized unit. It's typical for buildings like that to actually run what more like City Hall has, with a boiler and a loop system with heat pumps and a cooling tower. But this is what that building has had and has had for a while. And so obviously at some point it was decided that heating it with furnaces is a way to go. And I think some of them are also on off peak. And so if one runs for a certain amount of time, it'll switch to the other one. So it's more of a redundancy kind of thing.
Okay, and then with the cooling, I was under the impression the new HVAC system we installed in City Hall could eventually be tied in and service the annex too. Is that the case, or is that not the case?
I believe that is the case, and I would have to check with WSN on that. Conversations I believe that were being had was when they were talking about having the breezeway more or less between the 2 buildings, to provide for that ductway between the annex and City Hall. But I'd have to look back at those conversations and see if there's a way you could run that cooling side through the garage space, or how that would work, I guess, Mr. Chair. I'm not exactly sure. I believe it is sized in such a way that it would be able to provide something like that. But that would be more of a mechanical engineer that would need to give me the answer on that one.
Okay, yeah, so if you have time in the near future, before we start looking at what we're going to do with the cooling, if you can reach out to WIDSAT and kind of get the answers on that, and we can build it into our capital improvement plan to tie in the annex if and when we're over there working on that building. And I know that's unrelated to this furnace fix right now, but it's just something to look forward to. Jan?
Mr. Chair, for Paul, he had mentioned something about a basement. Is there a basement furnace also?
The furnaces are in the basement.
Are they? Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair, there's a 3rd level in that building where the elevator equipment is. And that's also where the 2 furnaces are that service the at grade level of that building.
Huh.
Oh.
We didn't see that when we toured it a couple of years ago.
You don't want to go down there. It's a little scary.
Well, and the alarm was going off.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions on this? I guess the motion is to approve staff to spend the $11,000 of capital funds to replace furnaces at the annex.
So moved.
A motion by
Second,
Bevins.
Bevins.
And a second by Bevins. Motion by Stunek, second by Bevins. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Next item is the clarification of term limits for committees. Jennifer?
Yep, I can be real quick on this. As at the last meeting, Commissioner Chesak from the Airport Commission asked for clarification on term limits. And so the discussion really was, how do you handle it if someone was appointed to fill out a term? The consensus of the council was really to count the full terms. Therefore, the recommendation by staff is to amend any committees that have term limits to read a member shall be allowed to serve the specified number of full terms. And we think that that clarifies the intent.
Yeah, effectively adding full to everything instead. So we don't have any questions about partial terms. I think that's what we went over last time. Are there any questions? Let's sort of take a motion to adopt those changes.
Move to approve, Pritchett.
Second, Lambert.
Motion by Pritchett, second by Lambert. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
W. Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. That brings us to item 10, which is public forum. We'll open the public forum at 8:17. And it doesn't look like anybody from the public is here to speak, so we'll close it at 8:17 and we'll move on to staff reports. 11A, city administrator, any updates since the packet?
Yeah, I do actually have a couple of them. First and foremost, we did update the work from home plan. As you know, I talked to each of you just to talk about our plan. The number of COVID cases has continued to increase in Crow Wing County, but also increased among our city staff. And in fact, HR Director Schubert shared with me today that we've actually have 14 people in the last 2 weeks who have been quarantined as a result of COVID. 3 of them are at outside of City Hall, but the others are within the city. 3 are outside of the city. As a result, the decision was made to move forward with a working from home model. The reason is to protect our staff for sure, but also we're just starting to get a little concerned about coverage. So the CDC states that a person needs to quarantine for 14 days when they're exposed to COVID or when they have a family member that has tested positive or if they have tested positive. Therefore, we're starting to see that staff are needing to quarantine. While they may feel okay to work, they're not able to come into the office. So this ensures that we continue to have the city fully operating. And so we're just asking that the council ratify that decision. So with that, Mr. Chair, if you would like a motion.
Yeah, Alderman Pritchett.
Move to approve.
Lambert, second.
Motion by Pritchett, second by Lambert to ratify the changes to the COVID preparedness workforce plan for the city. Any discussion? I'll just say it's the right call to make. I mean, it's running pretty rampant all along Minnesota and the upper Midwest. And in March, we sent everybody home out of abundance of caution. This time we're sending people home because there's real risk out in the community and the right thing to do.
Mr. Chair, I have a question on the memo that we received from the county that Jennifer sent to us about that 5% and 10%. Is that going to affect us now that we've done this? We're kind of safe, aren't we? The fact if we get that 10%, Crow County gets a 10% as an organization with our preparedness, we are well within the guidelines, correct? Or are we going to have
Are you talking about the memo from Commissioner Malcolm?
From the county.
That the county forwarded?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're well within the guidelines on that with our changing tonight with our motion.
Yeah, I think that was just kind of a form letter just saying, hey, heads up, you're over the threshold that is worrisome to health officials. So
okay,
do everything you can to in your communities. I don't think it was a threat of doing anything to us.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're within the guidelines that we're. You know, and I have one more question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
It's going to be printed. Is this going to be publicized, that memo? I think there's some businesses that really should see that.
Like it's a public document wherein all the county commissioners received it, all the city council members of Brainerd received it. So I don't know where it is publicly, but it is definitely
Okay.
a public document. And
Okay,
it came from the Commissioner Malcolm, so I'm sure they're out there.
okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote by roll call.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Bevins,
Yes.
W. Erickson, W. Erickson,
Yes.
T. Erickson,
Yes.
Lambert,
Yes,
Stunek,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. Anything else, Jennifer?
Yeah, I have two more quick updates. One, the Charter Commission directed Attorney Langle to provide the Charter Commission a red line version of the charter with items that conflicted with state statute. So the Charter Commission met again on November 5th to consider those recommendations and then did authorize staff to forward those recommendations to the council. Changes to the charter are done by ordinance and require a public hearing. That public hearing notice must be published at least 2 weeks, but not more than 30 days prior to the public hearing. So we didn't have enough time after the November 5th meeting for the attorney to draft the ordinance and get that published in order to meet the timeline. So the first reading of that ordinance will be held on will be on the December 7th agenda. And then just one more quick update. I did hear from Jenny at the library, letting us know that their staff will continue to work in the building, but they now are going to be offering curbside pickup throughout the week, including Tuesdays to Thursdays until 7, as well as Saturdays. They'll be closed. The building itself will be closed. And although there won't be access to public computers available during this time, they're going to continue to offer free Wi-Fi accessible in their parking lot. And they're starting a new email service where customers can send documents to be printed and then pick them up curbside within a business day. Also, thanks to some CARES funds that the Kitchigami Regional Library System received, they also have a small number of Wi-Fi hotspots that are available for checkout. So these changes will take effect on Tuesday, November 17th, and Jenny just wanted me to share that with the council. And I do have a couple of other updates in my written report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions to Jennifer? Seeing none, we'll call for any more staff updates since the written packet. Just unmute yourself and I'll call on you. Paul, you're unmuted. Do you have something to say?
Yep, I do. Thank
Yep.
you, Mr. President. You should have all received an email from me regarding a public survey that is out right now through MetroQuest regarding the Highway 210 corridor study. We're working on kicking off the public involvement again. And so I urge City Council to pass that along to anyone and everyone that uses Highway 210 to fill that survey out and return it. We're trying to get as much feedback as we possibly can from that MetroQuest survey. It's a very general and broad survey, but it'll help us to begin to identify the issues that residents or commuters have while utilizing Highway 210 traveling through our city. So this is kind of the first step. It's a broad survey to begin the process again. As you know, we took a hiatus during COVID. Meanwhile, we have continued to work as the professional team on design alternates and things at high traffic intersections. Those will begin to start to roll out the public involvement process, both virtually, open houses, and other means that we can get people to attend. So please fill out that survey and pass it along to anyone that you can.
Thank you, Paul. Corky, did you have something? I saw you turn your video on. Any more? Oh,
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I did not. Sorry.
no problem. Any more staff updates? Seeing nobody unmuted, and the mayor is muted and has his video off. I don't even know if he's here, but it's the mayor's report.
You know, normally I would speak for hours and hours, but the Vikings are playing, and it's time to just shut my mouth. So, remute.
That's my favorite mayor's report. That'll bring us to council member reports. I'll just go in the order I see you, and we'll start with Alderman Pritchett.
Nothing to report. Again, stay patient, stay kind, and we'll get through this.
Alderman Lambert. You're muted.
I have nothing other than it will be wishing everybody happy Thanksgiving. I can't believe it's that time already. Well, we will have another meeting before that, but don't we? Do we have another meeting?
Nope, it'll be the Monday after Thanksgiving.
Okay, yeah.
Your timing is perfect.
Yeah, so have a perfect, as well as we can, a Thanksgiving to you and yours and to our city. Thanks.
Thank you, Jan. Kelly.
Nothing to add.
Stunek.
Gobble, gobble.
Wayne.
Limit your family for Thanksgiving. It's dangerous out there, folks. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Tad.
Nothing to report.
All right. And I just want to say we got EDA tomorrow. We'll be meeting remotely. Got HRA on Wednesday. We'll be meeting remotely. And I think all of the city commissions have moved to remote meetings. And like I said earlier, March was kind of a dry run. And now the virus is here. And I just say, stay home, stay safe, don't go out in public. And like Pritchett said, be kind to each other. It's a trying time for everybody. So that'll bring us to adjourn to a closed session pursuant to Minnesota statutes 13D.03 to discuss labor negotiation strategy.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion by Bevins, second by Lambert, and vote by roll call.
All right. I'm slacking. Pritchett.
Yes.
Bevins.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
T. Erickson.
Yes.
Lambert.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
And Johnson.
Yes, that motion carries. We are in closed session and